where are we at right now?
So right now we're in Cornwall, Ontario. And that's one of the things about being in this place and living here is like, right now one of our main people that are with the camera crew don't know the situation with these customs because they're really, sometimes customs are more ignorant and don't like to dig in and would like to consequent you before they find out the truth of things. So instead of risking sitting at customs, we met here at Walmart so that way you could come and do an interview with me, and right there is already a part of our life that has to happen around here when you live in between, these imaginary borderlines that are controlled by, the government and these borders. And so you got customs and checkpoints, and as you're about to see, this is one of the few areas in the world where there's a territory in between two customs, which would be the United States and Canada. This is Akwesasne. We're leaving Cornwall right now. This is all traditional Mohawk territory since before the 1400s. And so before this was a city and all established, all the way from up near Montreal to down all through the Thousand Islands was known where my ancestors and everybody from our lineage and the Mohawks and the Iroquois, this is where they would have their foundations and the bases after leaving through the Mohawk Valley. And so they would come up here in the season change and settle and, get the best of the waters. And, that's why Montreal was settled along the water for the inlet coming in from the ocean. They knew the access of that, shipping channel. And so hundreds of years later, you got Montreal being created as well as Cornwall and all of these cities in Canada. Canada's not even a couple hundred years old. Canada has a really early birth. And and when people celebrate Canada Day, you can dig in, and once you realize your birthday ain't that young, you gotta figure out, all right, what was happening before that birthday? How long has people been in this place before someone said that, hey, this is mine and this is my birthday?
It's my birthday.
So it's about these surviving through imaginary lines. And so right now, for us living on this island where we're about to go right now, it's a 7-kilometer long island. And it's just all natives on there. And in order for us to leave right now to go grocery shopping, doctor's appointments, anything of normal living, we have to go through customs. And this happened in 2009 when Canadian Customs, they got this, the new law changed to where all of Canadian Customs would be able to carry firearms. And so this customs right here at the Port of Cornwall was the only one that was not on government-owned territory. So they established this customs here back in the day, and they did it strategically to lock down this area between the United States and Canada. So placing the American customs on that side and the Canadian customs on the island strategically allowed them to landlock this whole area and have surveillance and security and to have control of this whole area. And so every day to go home when I leave, whether it's the States or Canada, we have to go through one of these. So right here is the Canadian customs to the left of us. And so when we leave my house, we have to go through this no matter what. Now in 2009, the customs used to be over here. And so once they moved it here, it created this landlock. And so now every day we gotta go, we gotta show card in order to be fast-tracked through there. If we show our status cards, the same thing, they just give a little trouble sometimes. But the whole point of that is to fast-track through because the Canadian government has that toll authority there that they made some sort of deal, but it puts us in a predicament to where now every day when I leave my house with my mother from our territory that has been passed down from generation to generation, we have to go through toll booths and customs in order just to live. And so now you've actually touched the island right now. So now we're officially in Akwesasne. This is, it used to be known as Cornwall Island. And so when you used to come across the bridge from America, you used to hit right here and hit the customs, and then you'd be in Canada and you're good to go. 2009, they moved it from there to there. And now, in order for any of us that lives on this island to leave, it's that bridge or this bridge. Right now, you're on an island. And so right there, that's our only gas station. This is our only other convenience store. We don't have no grocery store. We don't have no hospital. And so
no hospital.
No, the closest hospital, you got to go through customs and get over there to Cornwall. And if it's really bad, they ship you up to Ottawa. And so right here we got Jayohcee.
How they ship you to Ottawa?
And then so that's our main store that the whole reserve grew up off of. We had a lot of dispensaries popping up as well as tobacco shops, but that's like most places. And then now we're hitting the island, heading towards the east end. One road down, one road out. This is where we lived my whole life. You know, my mom brought me up when I was a child from Syracuse, and you know, we've lived here since I was a baby and young, and always back and forth between all over throughout my life. But it's always been this one road all the way down to where we live, and the one road out. It could be paradise when you look at the beauty from the outside, and sometimes the inside isn't as the same, you know, living with the inner turmoil of these imaginary lines, living throughout the residential school situation with my grandfather and great uncles, and that forcing them to bring their children to the States in Syracuse in the 60s and 70s. And that's the reason why my mother and their families had grown up in the cities, is because they went through the residential school thing, and they were literally scared of being around the culture and the songs and the language, because it was beat out of them and tortured, and it led to them wanting to be farther away from here, which led to them going to like Syracuse, Buffalo, Boston. A lot of the natives from all of the reserves in Canada had spread out all over the states. And what it is once you hit the States, you get to different cities, different mentality, different survival mechanisms. And it allows you not really to worry about the strifes and the stresses of the past, which is one of the things that it's sort of like running away and escaping. And, you know, and I've done that throughout my life too when things get bad. And so now, personally, I'm just trying to balance.
So what does Jayohcee means? Where did you come from?
So Jayohcee stands for Jocko's Out of Control. And what's crazy with that is, like, when I first started rapping, it was out of joy and fun. And when I was little, I realized, like, once I started taking it serious, I started digging into my books from like junior high and high school and shit. And there was lyrics all throughout them, and just as much as drawing and lyrics and music has always been like the escape from like the chaos in the world. And so that led to, you know, music. And then so when I first started rapping, I didn't have a name. It was just, my name's Corey Jayohcee, so I just went by Corey J. And then my mom always used to call me the Kid, and so it was like the Kid Corey J for the first few like year or two, and then I don't know, it just didn't stick. And then so I was trying to find a name that would just stand out and be different, and even then it didn't really, nothing was hitting. And then so like, we're from here. This is Jocko Road. This is where we're at right now, and this is where I grew up. So it's like, you know, Jocko's, and they around here, a lot of people don't like to come in our driveway, come visit or nothing, because it was crazy growing up here. And so, you know, they always said we were out of control. And so Jocko's Out of Control is where, you know, Jayohcee came from. And it was originally J.O.C, and that led to me not being able to put it in Facebook, put it in Twitter. All of this social media era came in. And, you know, that might point out how old I am, is, you know, I was back on MySpace days. That was the first song I ever made, was put out on MySpace. And then that led to, you know, me trying to find a way to put my name on the internet. And they wouldn't put J.O.C because, you know, they want first and last with the social media. They started doing that. And so that led to me, you know, trying to figure out a way to keep the name and still, you know, brand. And that led to me spelling out Jayohcee, Jayohcee. And now it's funny because when I spelt it out and I say it to people, it comes out easy. But then when people read it, it's like because I'm native or whatever it is, I don't know, their brains go like, they say it weird, like, how is it? And I'm like, it's Jayohcee, just, you got to read it out. And then, so I guess that was one of the branding mistakes that I was talking about earlier, is like, you know, I didn't think too deep into what other people thought. It was more about what I felt and what the name meant to me, and I felt like the world would gravitate to it eventually. And even within this last year or two, I struggled with getting ready to drop this album and to do all this new material that I'm getting coming out with. I had the opportunity to rebrand, and I thought of changing the name and changing everything, and or even creating alter egos. And it's funny that like nothing, there was no time for it. Time never seems to be on a person's hand. Nobody has control of time, and so that's the one thing I've realized throughout life. And sometimes you learn it the hard way, and sometimes too many things are on your plate, and now it's about balance and struggle. And I'm a person of signs, and when things happen, I try not to second guess too much or dwell on it, because I can see the good and bad in things, and it's just about making the best of the situation. And that's what I always seem to do the best. And that led me to coming out with Jayohcee and putting it on the album and pushing this through and just continuing with it, because I felt I put in over 10 years of hard work and dedication with Jayohcee. And the world might not know it or be able to read it, but the few that have met me and heard it, and I only got to tell them once what I said earlier, and it stuck. And those same people have shown love and supported throughout the years. And even people on heading to a show, or my very first time I was in an award show in like 2009. That's how long ago I've been making music, and it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, for Native Awards. And the same thing there, man, just getting on the plane, and the very first person that I met as an introduction to the outside as a fan and a supporter is Skip Blackie, and he just happened to be on my plane. And to this day, he's still on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and now he's like a social media guru, and like he's such a positive guy in all these years. And we just met on a plane, and throughout the years, he's shared and built. And so now, from that first experience, every time, everywhere I go, every plane trip, train, it don't matter, there's something about building and bonding with the circles around you, whether they're going to be there forever or not. Because, even most people in your life aren't there forever.
What was the hardest growing up here?
Oh, man, the hardest growing up here is, I guess being away from, the rest of the family, in a sense, because my mother brought me here. My mother tried to get her brothers and sisters to come back to the land, and a lot of them had been in the city so long that that's the only thing they see and know is the city, the pavement, the lights, the sirens, and they're used to it. You bring them, they come to the res, and they're just like, they feel a little lost. I know, and I understand it. And it's almost the opposite effect with when you grow up here on the land, and in this, you get a house light over there, and maybe a siren once in a while when something seriously happens, but it's not. You get more peace and more tranquility and silence than anything else. And so that's, one of the reasons why I really do appreciate the reserves and the little bit of land that we got left throughout history, and to be able to still be on territory and land that is spanned back, hundreds, if not thousands of years throughout our people is it's an honor. And so that's why one of the main reasons why I try and fight so hard to, keep what we got and stand up for what we got, and also help my mom and everybody else realize why I fight so hard. Is it's beyond just us. It's about this land and the future of everything.
And how did you came? Is hip hop helping you spread out your message?
Oh man, hip hop's been my savior. It's been my key, everything. Like I said earlier, I wrote in the books, and I have papers from when I was younger with raps, but that all led to nothing serious. So one of my cousins had passed away when I was younger, and that led to me writing a song. Before that, it was just like freestyling at parties or just messing around and nothing serious. And then once he passed away, it was really weird. Like, I didn't have no tutor, no guide, nothing. It was just like, it was almost like I was just free flowing the lyrics. The lyrics were just coming out. And all these years later, I listen to it sometimes, somebody else will want to hear it, and I'm like, you can hear the little mess ups, but the purity, the sound's still there. That I had rhyme schemes, which I was like, I didn't really see my potential at the time. And so that song was created for him, and we actually played the song on the way to his, he had passed away on this very road up here, actually. So when you leave our road and we go back to bring you back, we got to drive by where he passed away. as well as I have another cousin passed away here. But the whole thing is that creates all of this stuff internally, and sometimes some people have to bottle it, some let it go, and I tend to bottle it and keep it in there, and music has been one release to let it go. And so that led to my first song, and then from there I still wasn't taking it serious. It got on the radio, it led to places, people were talking about it, and I was like, okay, there's something. And then at the time I was in and out of a lot of trouble, and being around certain things, and it was about surviving. My mother had cancer when I was younger, 14, and it left me from then on to fend for myself for a few years, and I dropped out of school and got in trouble. And at first it was like an scapegoat. Like I had this song and the radio was playing it, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna tell the lawyer that I'm making music, and this is how I'm not gonna go to jail. And so I did. Told the lawyer. The lawyer was like, "What? Oh, judge is gonna love this. Nobody's doing this around here. You can show and be changed." And so he pitched it to him, and I ended up going. It went from me getting ready to plead to, okay, let's push his trial. We'll push it for 6 months and see what he can do. And in that 6 months, I ended up putting together a show, news and radio interviews. It led me to doing my first show ever here on my reserve on AMS, Akwesasne Mohawk School, which is where I attended when I was younger. And they had brought all the other youth and kids from pre-K all the way up to 6th grade. So that's all the youth of this area before you go to high school and leave the reserve. And they were all there for my first show and my first songs. And from that point on, I realized like it's more than just me and this escape and just this one song. It was that moment when I stood in front of the judge and was like, yeah, this is what I do. And within the next day, I felt that I had to go do these things, and it led me to doing this performance. And my very first performance led APTN to come down and film it. And what way to break yourself into industry and performance, because boy, was I nervous to perform in front of, everybody from your reserve, as well as it being your first time and having the media there. And as soon as the stage time hit, I was right at home. And it poured out of me. I was able to talk to the kids. Now these kids are grown adults. Now these kids have kids. Now, a lot of them are doing a lot of things for this reserve, as well as there's so many more musicians and talent. And so it's beautiful to, still be around the reserve and see them and be like, hey, I remember you. And then they, some of the parents show me the pictures of them and me when I was younger at that show. And then they show a picture of them now, and it's just like, yeah, to be able to do these type of things throughout and in the beginning of the career, which led me to doing workshops and doing more motivational speaking, which led to boys and girls clubs. So the first 2 years of my career was, how do I get out of court? How do I run? And then as it progressed, I realized, no, this was my calling. This has been my way of life. This is how I can speak and be free and actually express how I feel inside. And even till this day, right now in 2021, my album release, thousands of shows, interviews, magazines, award nominations. I still struggle with those things. I'm still struggling with, being able to balance it and, to appreciate the outside and these things coming in, because the life on a reserve's hard. And so it's about balance. It's about true balance.
How is the indigenous scene in Canada in rap? Is there opportunities? Is there a boycott? How do you see it?
Oh man, I think we're at the greatest point ever of, the advantage of having social media and the technology that we have when it comes into, people being stuck on their phones. And the bad thing of it, this is the one beauty that came out, is us being able to tell our story and put it out to the world as well. And honestly, it's been nothing but love. And the thing about this is, few like myself have been doing this many years. In the mainstream, it's hard to break into, especially from, when you're coming from areas where there is no recording studios, no music events, and all of these things. And throughout the years, we had to learn to put them on ourselves and, do the legwork of learning it and figuring it out. And throughout those years, when I come up, there was, handful of indigenous artists that have been there since the 80s. There's core people, there's Relic, and then you got True Res Crew, and you got Lightfoot, and you got artists that span back to the beginning almost of hip hop. And hip hop is comes from the black community, and you know what I mean. And that's one of the greatest things that I appreciate too, as well as the fact that we have this shared struggle, and you know what I mean. This survival, and to be able to live throughout all these centuries of torment and you know what I mean, colonization, and to be able to find a way to share your voice. And sometimes people don't like the things you say, but sometimes we just got to let it out and speak. And through black culture and jazz and music, black culture has brought so much through entertainment and arts that has allowed the rest of the world to flourish. And us as Native Americans going through a lot of these struggles, we can relate so much. And I think that's why it's so easily to be able to share our story and knowledge through these mediums. And like I said, it's been nothing but love. And it's so cool to now be in the industry for enough years to be able to, rub shoulders and shake hands with a lot of the other indigenous artists out here that have been, putting in the groundwork for many years. Like I said, I've been doing it 10 plus. There's people doing it 20, 30 years, 40 years since the beginning of this. And to be able now to hit mainstream, and I feel like we're so close on the cusp to where we're going to be recognized as an equal, as everybody else. Because right now we're still deemed non-existent, or, if you ain't from a res or have a native friend, you really don't think natives exist other than in books and movies. Like even right now, I can go to cities and then you tell them where you're from and that, and they're just amazed. And the looks and the stories you get is just crazy in 2021, 2020, all these years right now. You think it would have been like gone and nowhere, but no, here we are. And indigenous hip hop is here, and it's here to stay. And we're coming to rock with everybody because we all have a mutual story, and it's the story of this world. And
And people are also learning your story because there's the storybooks of school, and there's the other story that we learn by experience. And I think people, with time right now, they're learning more and more about the indigenous fight here in Canada, in the States, in America. And what you think is the first thing that people must know about the situation here? What's the fight about right now? That's the most important, you think?
the most important fight in the world, it's not just here, is the fact that we're all fighting for clean air and clean water. And it's we're in a time where the humans can do a lot of info, a lot of Google searching and all that, but with your own eyes and your own heart and your own breath, you can feel the difference in the temperatures. That every year, we're getting less and less of seasons. The seasons are changing, and which all leads back to, they say could be global warming, could be this, but the fact of the matter is we are destroying a lot of this planet as human beings. There's a lot of destruction. It's like our human bodies, we know we need water and sunlight and fuel. The earth does too. And if we're stripping away the trees, and that's like ripping away all of our skin right now, and you know what I mean, dredging a hole in my arm so you can get a little bit of my blood for one of these watches or something. And so that's what we're doing to the planet. And so the biggest fight is being able to survive and exist on this planet for all of us. And then it just starts getting deeper, because when you come to a place like our reserves, we know that we have an ancestral connection to this land, because we're able to still maintain that through, the ceremonies, the songs, the knowledge, the sharing, as well as just walking outside and being able to touch the grass or go to the water. And so one of the biggest things around here is our waters are some of the most dirtiest waters in, North America. The St. Lawrence River here, which comes from Montreal and goes down and goes into the Great Lakes. Right here alone, we've had GM, Alcoa, Domtar, which are three of the biggest plants in North America. One supplied paper. GM, we all know what they do, vehicles and all that. And then Alcoa was metal. And so these plants had, right here along this river, within a quarter-mile radius down here, had all, since they had been put in for however many years, so all of this time they had been leaking their chemicals and compounds and just dumping into the river here. And this river system, like I said, leads up to Montreal, which goes all the way to the ocean. And so this has all been happening since the beginning of colonization in this country. It started in here, but it also goes down to the Hudson and all of that, where the start of the Industrial Revolution started, where the Alcoas, the Domtars, and these there's only 3 here. You go down the Hudson River and it's every 5 feet, and that, it's just that whole river is completely polluted, and they're trying to bring it back now, and they don't know if they'll be able to because of the toxins. And so those are the things that we live with here on this territory, and to be able to be on an island and not be able to drink the water around you when it's so beautiful and supposed to be pristine, and the only reason why it's not is because of man-made things that could have been planned better, put better, done better, and they're not. And when they're found to be in fault, they're just usually covered up, or just just wiped under the rug, and then on to the next, and find another way to deal with it until people start getting sick and dying. And so around here we have one of the highest rates of cancer. If you dig into the history of Akwesasne and all that, we also have one of the highest rates of PCBs, which is the chemicals that come from these plants that's leaked into the soil and the air and all that, which create cancer and all of these other diseases that come from man-made chemicals and compounds. And so these are the things that, growing up here specifically had to deal with. As a kid, going out into the river, every time we'd go swimming, half of the kids would come out with sores or this and that, and it's still that way to this day. We can't drink it. And so now growing up with that fight has always been there. We've always heard that. And now whenever like things are happening out there on Turtle Island or all throughout North America, it's like I don't have to think twice half the time. It usually is like, man, I know what they're going through. I know how that feels. Like, what can I do to help? If I'm here right now, and yeah, I got music, yeah, I got an album, but maybe like, hold up, I think I gotta go over there for a second because there's something that I might know or feel because I've been through this. And so that leads me to sometimes following my heart and, run into these so-called front lines. They call them front lines. That's what it is. But in all reality, man, it's just, it's going into to your backyard or going to a friend's house and, just trying to protect the perimeter and, hope that they got clean water and their land is good and nobody's encroaching. And then it just spreads out to something bigger. And now throughout the years that led to, things like Standing Rock, Tyendinaga. And, I was at Standing Rock and I was arrested in Thai, and the Standing Rock was for the DAPL, and because they were going under their river over there in the Missouri, and that was their last clean source of water, which feeds their wild rice, and it sustains their whole ecosystem along that riverbed. And they successfully went under that. That was a long fight. That was a couple years of fighting and going back and forth and being shot at, arrested, and family pneumonia, you name it. Like that, it was a pretty crazy time down there, and that led to going through that, feeling like you almost lost. But I always tell people, being in those things, man, sometimes those little things you might think you lost, but that was just that battle, man. We're in a long war, and in that battle, I built up friendships, knowledge, security. I have people that feel the passion for the land and the earth just as much as me all over the world now, that you can call upon to just talk to about things that you need to. And so like those are the type of things that come out of that. And I've been saying it a lot, beauty in the chaos, because that's what I feel like has been happening a lot lately, especially throughout these years, because sometimes it's about survival, and it's appreciating those little beautiful things that come out of it in the end, even if you feel that you're at a loss. Yeah. And that allows you to keep going and learn that is a battle. And those are strategies, tactics, then lessons learned, and they become valuable in the future. And so that led me to, being out in Thai, because the Wet'suwet'en people are doing the same thing out there, fighting to protect their lands, their sacred, their ancestors had did their ceremonies there. They've lived and breathed and hunted throughout those mountains all throughout eternity. And then now, because colonization, corporation, and money and debt, that's that now other people have to suffer for this. What's even crazier is with most of these things, they can always be averted, rerouted, changed to not affect the people directly in the area. But sometimes when it comes to indigenous, it's better to press and hope to wipe out than to go by and alleviate and leave them be. And that seems to be the tactic throughout history in these modern times, is to, we could go around, but I would rather step on them and go through. And when it comes time for them to think like that and act like that, they call their goons and they call the people and they call these guys out to be, assholes and dickheads and push around women and pour out water and put out fires. And when you see that as a man, when people like me see that, it feels like you got to do something. Like it's time for you. Okay, you want to step on women. You want to. Okay, let me just see what I could do here. You know, and it's just usually my heart's like, we got to get out there. What can we do and help and usually moments like that, like Standing Rock and these things, it's like, what am I going? Do I go help? Do I go do what? You never know. You get there, and the Creator and the universe just guides you sometimes. And for me, it's almost all the time. And
Does music help?
music always helps, man. Music seems to be the release after every one of these things, before, after, in between. And
Does it?
so even at Standing Rock, I had wrote a song, and it was called Stay Woke at first, but I retitled it for this album because it didn't get the traction that I thought it should have, and I feel people really need to hear the story in it. And so it was the only thing musically that I created at camp. Because like I said, I went there, I thought I might have been able to do a workshop or do some teaching or who knows, because I didn't know what I was getting into. I said, what skills do I have that I could use? And I thought it would be music stuff, and in turn it was no, it was survival, you know, doing urinals, doing wood. And so I ended up making one song there the whole time, and that one song is a gem that's on my album now, and I titled it A Standing Rock Story. And then same thing with Ty, you know, after I was out there, I had wrote a lot of lyrics after that, you know, I hope to put down. But in turn, it's the times when you're in turmoil and, you know, after you just got shot and people are getting arrested and you're still alive, the one thing for me has been is to always, you know, make music and put it into my lyrics and find a way to release it and get my words out.
You said got shot.
Yeah, rubber bullets and shit like that. Like at, at these actions and these front lines, and you go to these places, and it's their main tactic. They throw it the same way you would throw a snowball. These police and these military like to gas you and rubber bullet you, and you know, get you all disoriented and fucked you up so they can get you. They would like to arrest you and take you and, you know, treat you like an animal and put you in dog cages and all of these things.
So you talked about releasing an album really soon, November 11, and I know now you're going back to BC.
Yeah.
Uh, what are you going to do in BC, if you can tell, and also how does it impact or affect like the music that you're doing right now?
Yeah. Actually, you know, I had people that were close to me that, you know, had called me and said that they, you know, we need to go out there and we have a ceremony, and it's, you know, you got arrested for them, and I'd like for you to meet them. And so I was like, all right, don't have to ask me again. And they had the, you know, the trip taken care of. And so I went out there, and once I got there, I realized like how more important and valuable I am just in general, and every person is, anybody with a heart or mind, and you know, and you know, viability to do something as a human being, you know. That's, and so I went out there, I met the people, I did the ceremonies, and I actually got to see really what I was fighting for a year ago. And another reason why I was fighting at all of these fights is for that clean water and that land, the pristine land, and to be able to go there on their territory and be brought to their water, and to go down to their water and do prayers and actually drink their water and put their water on your body and know that it's clean and pure, is the first time in my life I was able to experience that. Being here on a reserve where they tell you not to drink water, don't drink nothing out of your sink, don't, you know, we've had well water all my life. We just got clean water in the last, you know, 10 years. And so to be able to drink out the water, man, like words can't explain how amazing that feeling and how good it tastes and just everything about that. And it just assures someone like me even more why, when you go out to these places to help people and fight for this land and fight for the water, it assures you more why, that it's more than just humans. It's nature, it's energy, it's, you know, the universe is crazy, and sometimes people like me just go with the flow and end up in these places. And so yeah, it definitely directly affects the music, because I was planning on dropping, you know, this album along with an NFT project and do a big, huge promo run. I had a bunch of radio stations and interviews and all this stuff lined up. And literally, once I went out there and realized that these people, like, they're at their last stand, and they're, you know what I mean, they need the help and they need all this, and I guess I'm a person that's willing to put materialism and sacrifice certain things to do what I feel is right sometimes. And so I was willing to almost miss my album release and all of that, and I thought I was gonna while I was out there, because while we were out there for ceremony, the RCMP had came in and they probably thought they were going to come in and beat up some women and pour out some water and stuff. And just so happens, we happened to be there for ceremony. And so we went to go and just talk to them and see what the situation was, and it didn't turn out that way. When they walked up, we walked forward and they turned around and left. And they haven't been back there since. And so I realized with things like that and those moments that, that's why you're there. That's why I was called there. It wasn't planned. It wasn't thought out. Some things just happen. And so now you're like, all right, the universe is doing these things. And then so it led to 2 extra days of having to stay there, which made me miss work. It made me miss everything. I missed the release date that I was supposed to set it out. I missed the NFT up. I had big interviews and stuff set up in these different forms of like Clubhouse and all of these things. And I was on a flight out to BC to go to help these people, and the internet wasn't working, the Wi-Fi didn't work on the train. And so I was like, all right, I'm trying to put this NFT project that goes with the album out and it's not working. Maybe I can get the album out on time. And then it turned out like after I was like, I'm gonna just stop stressing about it. When I get home, hopefully I could do it. And I got home, and it turned out I uploaded it, spent all night up, and then it literally said, we don't know if we'll be able to make it. You were supposed to upload it 2 to 4 weeks, but we'll let you know. And then I woke up the next day and it said success. It said, we have uploaded your music to distribute on all social media platforms, stores, Deezer, TikTok, iTunes, Spotify, all of it. And so now I feel it's a success. We're getting ready to drop Autumn Aries, November 11th, 2021, a 10-year progression to get to this point of beauty and chaos, like I keep saying. And so I managed to do that in between going to the front lines, and my heart says go back out there. And so right now I'm getting ready supposed to be going on my promo and my press run for my album, as well as planning out my tour for the album. But instead what I'll do is I'm gonna be out there helping people and doing a lot more that I feel could be done right now in that time. And whatever happens with it, so be it. And because I know when I come back, I could just pick it up where I left off. And the fact of the strength of what I've done over the years and the music that I feel is at the best point in my life of my stories and everything, I feel that it's gonna do what it needs to anyways. So regardless of the press run, and even if I don't make the tour right away, I know it's gonna come and all that. So now I'm gonna follow my heart and, head back out to the front lines. And so that's where I'm heading. And in the process, I just hope, pray every day that everything works out, because, I never know, man. It's always scary. And one of the biggest things for me is my mother. And so I'm an only child, and we're here at her house right now, and she's right there. And I've been, helping her. And she caught cancer when I was younger, 15. And then after that, she had mental breakdowns for a couple years there. And we've been battling with it off and on since. And she don't have no immediate family around. And it's just me here, and I'm an only child. So we're keeping the land alive for my grandfather and her father and all of that, while we're here trying to learn and maintain and survive as ourselves and just my mom. So when I'm gone, it's usually here by herself. And so I try my best to try to help her and set things up. And so that's the only thing that drives me crazy is like right now I'm worried about her. And then now while I was out there, which is crazy. I usually go to these front lines and I'm always trying not to be in a relationship or be involved with anybody. And the universe is weird, man. And so we went up there and I went for the ceremony and to do what we did. And in the process, I met one of the most amazing people in the world and one of the strongest women in the world, which is crazy that, when I went there, got introduced to everybody, and somebody had said, hey, this is this person, and then said that who they were, and just the fact of like, they're there fighting for their land with their father and their sisters, and they've been there holding it down. And, she dropped out of school for this, and she's been a year sober, and like, it's so close to my story to where like, I'm a year sober now, and I dropped out of school to go to Standing Rock, and since then I haven't went back to school because my heart just keeps saying to, continue to fight for my music and for the land and everything out here. So that's what I'm doing. And in the process, I just got lucky to meet this person, and her name's Jocelyn. And so it's just crazy because now like I was just going out to help protect the land and the people there, and now it's like she hit my heart even more to where now it's like I feel even more obligated to be there not just for the land, but for her now. And so now I'm torn between balancing, my career, my life, everything that's going on here. My mother that's, sick in and out of, mental illness and mental breakdowns. And now I have, beautiful woman,
You're in
beautiful
love.
warrior woman.
You,
Yeah, man.
you seem in love, brother.
I am, bro.
That's
And
it.
then, so now it's just my luck. It has to be on the other side of the country in the middle of a war zone. That's the universe doing that to me, Jayohcee, Corey. Because I always end up in these things. I always end up in these situations where, the girlfriend ain't next door, or the job isn't down the street, or the bus doesn't pick you up at the corner. No, man, I gotta walk 100 miles for this, or I gotta journey, and I still do it, and I'm willing to continue to do that throughout my life when it comes to things that my heart says just keep going. And whenever it's hard to feel love and joy and happiness when there's so much chaos and bad things going on in this crazy world we live in. And so for a person like me that's been through hell all his life, when I find these little gems of happiness, I just tried to hold on to it as well as give as much love as I can in that direction, because you don't find that too often. And
Mhm.
so now I'm going back out there, and I have to, hope that my mom stays all right and healthy and gets back on her medication. Because right before I went out there, you know, it was tough because we were getting ready to drop the album and do all these other things, and my mom's out there getting ready to get a job, get her license, like mentally back on her track after a couple years of doing, hard work and being focused. And here we are, residential school thing a couple weeks ago. She was a little off, and then when I went to BC and I came back, and she had a nervous breakdown while I was gone. And so now I'm back for a couple days and just make sure she's back on her medicine, make sure she's got everything she's needing while I'm gone, and then while also finding people to be able to come and say hi to her and just balance it, just so she's not here by herself, all while I'm out there trying to just do and live. And it's usually not even things that I'd like to ever want to do. It's just usually me doing the things that have to be done. And so
Yeah.
that's been my life story.
You talked about NFT. We're talking about music. Those things are can help the economy. And when we talk about indigenous and everything, people talk about tobacco. They talk about weed and everything. Do you think that giving the knowledge about NFTs, about the music industry, the music business, to the community can help the economy and the community at the end?
100%. That's exactly one of the biggest things. Like when I came into understanding what an NFT was, which is a non-fungible token. And, you know, these words and these phrases that, like it's like Punkinalipolodicus or something. They can make up a name that's really smart and sciencey, and that that's the name, but it's also just a pumpkin, right? You know that, and so that's the thing with a lot of this tech industry and all of that. They like to the words. There's a word that can make it easy, but the word seems to be hard. And so all the non-fungible token is to me is just a token. You have a token. The difference is now you can digitize anything. So if I took a picture of you and I put it on a computer, I could call that an NFT as long as I put it onto this site. So now we got this new world of digital art, the Renaissance, and all of these things. But like, what you asked is the best thing about it is it's a new opportunity for people like myself or communities or areas of, poverty or any of these things, to where if you have access to, the internet or anything, which most places do, and if you don't, there's ways around it. But the whole thing is it's given access to be able to create monetary value from your art and from your creations. So one of the best things about that is, like you said, yes, right now I'm doing music and I'm doing digital design for my NFTs, but we can even get a step further to where I see it going, to where people will be taking pictures of their beads, their rattles, their drums, and then someone will buy that digital version but also be able to get that real rattle sent to them. Well, giving this person over here who created the rattle money, certification, as well as the acknowledgement throughout the world that now these things exist. So once those things start happening a lot, we'll see more of our culture, more of our songs, more of our things being done right and not misappropriate or cultural appropriation. It will actually come from the source of our people now. Now it'll be a whole different ball game, and this will open up the gates for now the kid. Okay, now this little indigenous kid knows that if he's making rattles, not only can he make it for his people, but he can get that. Someone from Europe can buy that from him, and then also they get certification that could also be in the museums now. And so there's all these different assets and forms of way I see it going. And yeah, man, NFTs, it's the future. It could help so many people in and out of any culture, race, creed, but it's even better for the cultures that don't have the voice or the acknowledgement to get out there. And NFTs might be the access for all artists, but especially indigenous and people from, fighting against the grain.
I want to thank you for letting us come at your land and for giving us the opportunity to tell about your story. And I hope we continue to navigate together. I think it's a beautiful path that you're going through, and it's an honor to be here and help you spread it out. My English is not the
Yeah,
best, but
nah, it's all good, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you for even coming. A lot of people don't like to come to the territory and go through these customs and all of these loopholes like you've seen. And, I just appreciate you being able to take your time to come through here and see a little bit of what we experienced through here. And again, I go by Jayohcee, Sego Skanagoga. How you doing? Welcome to Akwesasne. And this is my home turf, the territory, the beautiful place that I grew up in and I've been sharing with the world. I'm a nominated indigenous artist for the hip-hop scene throughout, and I've also, I've been in documentaries. Right now I have a documentary on PBS called Echoes from Lock 1 that I'm a part of and helped work with the Sanctuary of Independent Media out in Albany, New York. And that's with the youth, as well as so much other things going on right now. Look out for the interviews, the press. Autumn Aries 11/11 is going to be one of the greatest achievements in my life, and I'm honored to share it with you, the world. And NFT project, 111 Autumn Aries NFTs to go along with the album. And catch me on the front lines near you. Choo choo.